This show is furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.
Get the lawyer on my case. Hurry up and get the lawyer on my case.
790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber, and I'm a real workplace lawyer. Last week's show was a little gross. Imagine some guy with a short-term vacation rental app business talking about how people rent out a bathroom for a half hour to an hour if they're between a buffet and a public swimming pool. Since this is a breakfast show, I wanted to make it up to you by having a new client on this show. Her name is Sunny, and it looks like, well, she'll add a breath of sunshine to your next culinary experience. She will also talk about her labor law problems as a chef or something like that.
Oh, thanks for having me down here. Oh, I've never been on the radio before. I'm pretty nervous.
I tell clients when they're testifying that if they slow down, they will feel more relaxed. Talking fast can add to the nervousness somebody experiences when testifying.
Okay. Can you explain why my new client interview has to be on the radio? I didn't quite understand. This seems a little unusual.
With the whole Me Too movement and me not having a female staff member in the office over the weekend, I figured everything I say is heard by the greater Southern California radio listeners and all those international people that I have listening on the internet. Well, there won't be any false accusations.
What kind of lawyer are you anyway?
Do you accept the terms of this interview or not?
Oh, do I have a choice?
Well, everybody has a choice. I mean, maybe not so much in Kentucky. Maybe depending on the ultrasound.
I don't understand.
I'm here to offer a slightly different perspective than some of the people on the air during the week.
I wouldn't know what they are like. I don't listen to the radio.
Yeah, that's sad. You should. There's a lot of interesting programming.
Programming? Ugh, I hate that stuff.
Yeah, back when I was a modem stud in the 80s running the first multi-user BBS in Los Angeles before the internet, I wasn't exactly the programmer, more the hype man, the content creator, and the salesman.
Like coding.
Well, I was thinking of real computer programming.
I was sort of going out with a guy, a much older guy. If I told you who he was, you'd know. He brought me to the Scientology place. It was pretty messed up. They wanted to program my mind.
Did much of that happen?
I'm not sure. Maybe. How would I know?
Well, I wouldn't know.
They get inside your head and do things.
I try to steer clear of religion on this show. Sometimes it's hard. I mean, we have touched on church a few times. I talk about Jewish things sometimes too, and a few weird religions like the skinlets who claim they live underground.
Look, can we talk about my legal problem?
Do we have to?
I thought that's why I got asked to come here.
Oh, to tell you the truth, I just needed somebody to be my guest on this show. I can't take any more of those people Remus Helms sends over.
You know Remus Helms. I'm wondering if maybe you can help my stepdad get a deal on the Cindy D sex robot?
I certainly won't get involved in that sort of a thing. I'm not a pimp, and I can't go around aiding and abetting in the purchase of a recalled product.
Okay, here's what happened. I was living in L.A. for about a year, dating the actor who tried to get me into Scientology. Well, we weren't really dating.
Sort of like virtual dating?
Like for appearance. I don't think he likes women.
Why did you go along with this?
Experience.
What kind of experience? Defrauding people?
Oh, he had a really great kitchen.
So, in other words, you just pretend that you were dating this guy and let people do things to your head because this guy had a great kitchen.
His kitchen sucked when I first met him. The chef was on drugs.
Scientologist on drugs?
My not really boyfriend had an outsourced kitchen. He wasn't sure he'd be in LA very long because he was about to start filming a sequel.
No, this is so LA.
Oh, I wouldn't know. This was the first time I was involved in anything like this.
Oh, your first time being a public persona girlfriend? It's a good gig sometimes, but seriously, who cares if someone's gay anymore?
I didn't know it was like that when I got involved. These people recruited me, and then I was in.
Why would you want to be recruited to be a girlfriend?
Do we have to get into that? I thought we were going to talk about my case.
Oh, definitely. What? By the way, what was your job?
I was hired to be a chef.
Who hired you?
I got recruited.
By Scientology?
I got a call from a woman who said there was a place where they needed a chef.
Was this like a recruiter from an agency?
She was with a pretty big agency where the place specializes in the food industry.
Okay.
See, she said the kitchen was a little bit different because they did all kinds of different kinds of food. I said I'd been running a celebrity kitchen, and that was very demanding. And I learned how to prepare literally every type of ethnic dish that can be had in Los Angeles. That's very big, and that's one of the reasons why I came to LA.
I've read and heard a lot of people in the food industry believe that the best ethnic cuisines can be had along Ventura Boulevard in the Valley.
Oh, there is quite a bit there. A lot of people are able to open up a restaurant there opposed to on Restaurant Row in the city. But for instance, if you are interested in Chinese food, you have to go to Monterey Park, maybe Alhambra.
So, Sunny, do you have a favorite dish you could tell the listeners about?
Oh, sure.
What is it?
What?
Your favorite dish to prepare?
Oh, I love to prepare and then eat deep fried silkworms.
Oh, that's an interesting name. What's in deep fried silkworms?
Silkworms.
You make deep fried silkworms?
Okay, there is a Thai restaurant on Sunset called Jitlada. One night, they a guy I was dating got some delivered. I reverse engineered the recipe and came up with my own way to deep fry a silkworm.
How does PETA feel about this?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question. Oh, I never thought about that.
Let's get back to the potential case at the kitchen.
Okay, so the recruiter lady gave me an address for an interview. I wanted to come in during the early afternoon because I had a dinner to do. Yeah, it was really hard to find the place. When I tried going over there in the afternoon, I couldn't find the place.
No, that's embarrassing. I mean, missing the interview because you couldn't find it.
The recruiter said they understood. The kitchen owner told her nobody can find the place during the afternoon.
I presume your interview went well if you ever got one.
Well, I did interview, but it was weird. When I got there, the owner wasn't there. I had to talk to her on the phone.
Okay, Sunny, let's skip ahead to you starting the job.
I think I did that.
Well, you did work there, didn't you?
Well, I know I did. That's the thing.
Are they claiming you didn't work there?
The unemployment place, I think you call them the EDD, said they didn't know who they were.
That's bad. I mean, I presume it wasn't that large of an employer you were working for.
I thought they had people working there.
Well, maybe this employer violated the labor code and didn't put the right name on your paycheck.
Oh, could be, but I don't have any of the pay stubs. They all vanished.
Yikes. I mean, I guess the pay stubs aren't that important to everyone. Pay stubs sure are important to a wage and hour lawyer like me.
Well, I thought I had them, and then when I looked for them, they just weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, employee lawyers have to get the name of the company right. If we don't have the right name on the lawsuit, we won't be able to serve the lawsuit.
It's easy to find the place at night. Can they serve the lawsuit at night?
I don't know. I mean, this employer might not be the kind I want to sue on a contingency basis and advance all the costs for if, their existence is this murky.
They're doing thousands of orders a day. I know they are making a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, given all the time I spend on these cases and the cost which I have to advance, and, I have somewhat recently increased these costs because of all these mandatory electronic filing fees because courts won't take paper filings, and now these plaintiff depots you have to buy because the court reporters want to be paid double, and they're interfering with lawyers' steps. It's just too hard to do a case on a contingency basis if we're having trouble figuring out who the legal entity is, from the get-go. So, people out there, if you've got a real employment case and it's against a collectible employer, I'd like to hear from you. Please give me a call during normal business hours at 877-525-0700. I have represented many employees in the food industry of all types, chefs, executive chefs, servers. Sometimes there are wage and hour problems in restaurants. People don't get rest breaks. Got a problem like that? I'd like to hear from you at 877-525-0700 during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, about 9 to 6:30. 877-525 if you need a real employment lawyer, because I am a real employment lawyer, licensed in 4 states. And when we come back, we'll find out more about Sunny's legal problem. I don't know if I'm going to take her case if this employer is this murky. I don't know. A lot of restaurants are kind of fly by night, and we'll just have to find out more about this on Talk Radio 790 KABC on the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show when we come back.
Who you gonna call? Hey, get the lawyer on my case. Hurry up.
Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. And, I've got to take meds to get through a lot of these guests Remus Helms sends me. But so far, this lady Sunny here seems a little more tame, the chef.
Well, I heard some really big companies have all sorts of divisions, and all of them are separate companies.
Yeah, that's a different issue. If we get the wrong company at first on a big case like that against a big employer, the lawyers for the really big multinational companies will start pestering us to bring in the right company and dismiss the wrong one.
Well, they had 3 shifts. Each shift did thousands of orders. They were making more than any restaurant I've ever worked for.
Well, how much were these orders for on average?
Oh, that's sort of hard to say because not all of these orders are sold directly to our customers.
There's that much waste?
Well, this is a ghost kitchen.
Oh, that explains why we can't find the name of the employer.
Oh, do you know what a ghost kitchen is?
Yeah, it's one of those kitchens that delivers for the food for the apps.
That's one of the things they do.
All right, well, let's explain to listeners how this works. One of the purposes of this show, besides offending people without a sense of humor, that is to let our older conservative listeners open up their minds a little, expand their minds. I'm not saying this is LSD. We're just trying to break the mold and expose them to some of the new ways people are employed. Oh, and all the ridiculous sexual and other stuff people are doing these days, which I don't necessarily approve of.
Oh, I know. Seriously, why do people think it's so weird that there's a Yanni lady who used to be a 1099 employee over at the Remus Helms Cosplay Ostrich Ranch? Now she's over on Santa Monica Boulevard at that tiny salon where they do the big toe massages on the Yanni stools. Can you believe that woman on episode 57 said those were toilets and she pronounced them toilets? Hey, that Goop show, are they copying your content?
This show's an original. That's all I'm going to say.
I first heard it on the Karl Gerber with a K channel on YouTube when I was over in Greece, pretending like I was dating that guy and bending all over all the time. Not for the reason you think, because with heels, I am a lot taller than that guy.
Anyway, tell us more about how the ghost kitchen works.
Okay, well, they said it's a co-working kitchen, but I am sure it's a ghost kitchen. Anyway, one shift shows up before the sun comes out at about 5:15 a.m. They stay for about 12 hours until it gets dark. Once daylight savings starts, they work an even longer shift, 3 days a week. Second shift starts at 8 p.m. and leaves at 5:30 a.m. Then there's the midnight to 5:30 a.m. That's part of the problem. See, a lot of the times there isn't enough staff during the dinner rush.
Why such long shifts for a kitchen?
Sometimes I feel like that's one of the labor abuses.
No, it's okay for people to work long shifts if the employees are paid overtime and double time.
They said it's that way because people have too hard a time finding the place during the day.
I'm seeing a lot of strange schedules these days due to commutes and attempts to avoid traffic.
Yeah, I mean, since this is over in the middle of the city, traffic might be a consideration, especially now that traffic's doubled with all the ride-sharing cars driving around to pickups. But I don't think traffic is why the schedules are so strange.
Well, it is a 24-hour kitchen, right?
Well, there's always food being picked up by the app services, food going to the main restaurant, food being prepared for a bunch of restaurants all over the city.
All right, Sunny, why were you fired?
I am saying I quit. But they're saying I was promising people we'd get food orders out between 7:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. at night.
What is this? A bunch of food sent out during the night and then it sits forever collecting bacteria?
No, that's more just like an app service problem. When they're not eating your food, it's sitting around somewhere collecting bacteria.
Is that a fact?
It might also smell like weed when you get it. Most of the drivers are also doing weed deliveries.
I think they're also taking a lot of bong loads in their cars.
I think that's a pretty common. A lot of the app drivers are driving for weed money. As a food industry professional, I think there should be specifications about whether the customer wants that type of infusion.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want my food infused with marijuana, nor would I want it eaten, or I wouldn't want the food in some sketchy person's car. Thus, I don't order from the gig economy.
Oh, gosh. You seem so definite. There aren't any other reasons you don't order from the gig economy, is there?
I'm not supporting slave labor. Those gig economy drivers don't earn the minimum wage.
I feel like you want to make this show political.
Oh, well, I'm moving right along. You had a job in a ghost kitchen that prepared food for all sorts of places.
Well, it was supposed to be a collaborative environment. They said I'd get to meet all kinds of chefs.
Well, was that a problem?
Sometimes we're preparing matzo brie for some deli in Corona, and for the record, that isn't where the coronavirus originated.
Not a deli. I'm part of a serious debate about whether the coronavirus started because of the beer or a very lewd act, a plus-size phone sex operator, not Cindy D, but her supervisor. Well, delicious, divine, to be exact. It's what she did with the bonbons on a couch in a mobile home park. Cheapvacationrentals.com, rents by the hour, less and daily.
I'm pretty sure the coronavirus started in a mobile home park in Corona, California. I think the place is called something like the Corona Mobility Estates.
How do you know?
Oh, I've seen the footage.
Hopefully nothing like that ever happened in one of your kitchens.
You played part of the sound on the last show. I think that's over on the Karl Gerber with a K channel on YouTube. It looks like a lot of people saw that episode.
Well, yeah, we got sort of off track about what you did in the kitchen at issue.
Well, like I was saying, we prepared food for a bunch of different restaurants. I'd never heard of any of them, but they sure gave us a lot of orders. Yeah, so matzo brie 1 minute, and then Taiwanese stir-fry crickets the next.
Did you prepare ordinary food, too?
Oh, sure. Sunny side up tangerine oaks, bread and tutter, all this super airy, lightweight stuff.
Lots of stuff I've never heard of. You must be a culinary expert.
Well, not really. I learned how to do all this stuff when I was pretending to be the girlfriend of that big celebrity.
What's the legal issue here? All this talk is boring the audience.
Seriously, Mr. Gerber, anything is better than listening to some guy talk to himself about politics.
But what is the legal issue you have?
I thought you knew since you took my case.
Are you supposed to be a whistleblower? And, were you sexually harassed?
That's right.
What was the sexual harassment?
Oh, I'm not ready for that.
Okay, this is the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and we need to get ready to hear about her sexual harassment. If you have a real workplace issue, I would appreciate a phone call during the week at 877-525-0700. We do sexual harassment cases. 877-525-0700 if you experience some form of labor abuse. 877-525-0700 if you want righteous representation by me, Karl Gerber, workplace lawyer, as you're hearing on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
Get the lawyer on my case. Hurry up and get the lawyer on my
Talk
case.
Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show. I'm Karl Gerber. I'm a real workplace lawyer, and you don't need term life insurance if you're a ghost. And I don't think a realtor is going to have a very easy time selling a house if it's inhabited by a ghost. But, otherwise, I think those commercials, they make a lot of sense. So anyways, Sunny, the chef, you're supposed to be sexually harassed. You don't want to talk about it. And I know you said you were whistleblowing. And so, what's the whistleblowing that got you fired?
Okay, I told them I thought the products in general were too airy. They didn't have any nutritional value.
Whistleblowing is complaining about something that violates the law. A complaint the food is too airy. I mean, maybe not filling. That doesn't violate a law unless the intent was to deceive the customer.
I felt like the product wasn't there.
That sounds like a standard of taste, sort of like saying, this show isn't up to the standards of conservative talk radio.
I felt like I made the food, and then when I checked it, it wasn't there.
Product was being stolen?
There were a lot of businesses using that kitchen, and the only one next to it.
I'm not seeing whistleblowing here, Sonny.
Look, I never met my boss either. I found that very strange.
You were managed remotely?
They had cameras all over the place so they could see what I was doing, and then they kept FaceTiming me. They could see me, but I couldn't see them. I'd say my hands are full of semen. I don't want to touch the phone.
Could you please repeat that?
They had recipes that called for the use of semen.
What shows how Vera in the territories no man has ever gone
Oh, I wouldn't say that. They must have. How else could have this happened?
Well, yeah, I think if you complained you had to work with that, and you were putting that into people's food, that would be a whistleblower complaint. I can't imagine anybody would want that in their food.
Well, that's another thing I learned in Tom's kitchen. Did I say a name? Can you erase that?
Tomfoolery, I mean, is what this is, and that's a phrase.
Look, I am a cutting-edge chef. We use all sorts of things to produce a flavor, a smell, a texture, too, in this case.
The taste of that product it would be gross, and it would offend, that object would offend everybody.
Semen is not only nutritious, but it also has a wonderful texture. Oh, and such amazing cooking properties. Oh, yeah.
No!
Oh, you aren't a gourmet.
You've got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, I'm not a fan of venison either.
Oh, semen adds a personal touch.
Oh, don't tell me this ghost kitchen was really called the semen-scented kitchen.
Oh, well, it isn't used in all foods. Like fine wine and cheese. The taste of semen it's complex and, it's dynamic.
Dynamic? I mean, yes, it creates all sorts of things, and those things create even more things and non-living things, too.
Well, don't knock it. Semen is inexpensive to produce and is commonly available in many, if not most, homes and restaurants.
Well, I get that it might be available in most homes. I mean, I guess homes where male species live, but restaurants? I mean, what's really going on here?
Well, we weren't using the product of the employees.
I don't even want to hear about this.
We didn't hand the customers a petri dish, tell them to go into the men's room and come back with the ingredients.
Oh,
No.
Another lady is going to say this show is offensive.
Mr. Gerber, I think your listeners need to make a decision whether they want to stay informed on the latest trends going on, not only in the workplace, but in culinary sciences, apps, and even the sex industry. Or do they want to pretend it is 1950?
This show shines because of its novel and extremely up-to-date coverage. I can't help this is the world we live in. If a listener wants something less edgy, they better find another show, another station. We are in 2020, and I want the listeners to have a 2020 perspective of this world.
Do you consider this serious news reporting?
Remus Helms unequivocally does. He considers it the best news coverage relating to employment laws and making them relate to sexual matter, but there's a lot more going on here. These are stories. These are characters. This is comedy.
Oh, now you're making fun of me.
Oh, don't take it that way, Sonny. When I was just starting out in radio, a very wise KLOS DJ told me if I haven't offended somebody, I haven't done my job for the day on the air. And she's right. George Orwell said, journalism is printing what someone else does not want published. Everything else is public relations. I shouldn't give out my phone number. So I strive to broadcast what someone else doesn't want broadcasted. Anyways, Sonny, let's move on to the sexual harassment. I mean, I guess you didn't find working with semen to be sexual harassment.
It's pretty chaotic working in a 214 square foot kitchen along a hallway of 14 kitchens on each side.
Well, were you sexually harassed by someone in your own kitchen?
I want to say yes.
Well, do what feels right.
Okay. I was sexually harassed by somebody in my kitchen.
What was their job?
I don't fully know because the person who sexually harassed me didn't work in the same kitchen as me.
You said the person who sexually harassed you worked in your kitchen.
You said I should say yes if it felt right.
Now, this sounds like some kind of consent thing for sexual harassment.
I wasn't thinking about consent. I just said he worked in the same kitchen as me because it felt right to say that.
Well, was this a matter of your moral consciousness requiring you to take a certain action that you knew was right, notwithstanding it might alienate you from being perceived as a witness we can follow?
Oh, you're making this way too political. Trying to make me sound like Mitt Romney. I was just doing what felt right by saying the sexual harasser worked in my kitchen.
Well, if he didn't work in your kitchen, where did he work?
Somewhere?
Well, if the sexual harasser didn't work in your kitchen, they need to work for your employer, or your employer has to be aware of this sexual harasser's harassment, fail to stop it, and then it continues after the employer knows of the person's harassment.
I think Puchito Anderson worked in the vegan kitchen.
Oh, is that a kitchen owned or managed by your employer?
I'm pretty sure my employer isn't involved in that kitchen. The only thing they might do is the beer.
Why does your employer have to... what does your employer have to do with the vegan kitchen's beer?
Oh, vegans drink a lot of beer. A lot of beer. Some of them think it helps their beard and leg hairs grow. The kitchen Puchito Anderson works in usually runs out of beer a few times during each shift. So they borrow from us sometimes, and other times they buy from us.
Well, it sounds like Puchito Anderson is a vendor or has a regular business relationship with your employer. Your employer could be liable for the sexual harassment if they knew about it.
Well, I've never met my employer.
Do you have a manager?
I am the chef. Everybody reports to me.
Did you tell your employer about the sexual harassment?
Look, before I get into that, I want to make sure it's even sexual harassment.
Okay, so what's happening that you consider sexual harassment?
A lot of things.
Sunny, can you be more specific?
No.
We can't file a sexual harassment lawsuit if you can't describe the conduct and, you claim it's sexual harassment.
I didn't realize that.
Really?
Is that a problem?
You can't just say I've been sexually harassed, but I can't describe the conduct that's sexual harassment.
I am doing that now. Why do you have a problem with that?
Well, I do. The employer will demur and say the complaint is vague if it doesn't contain facts. There are also issues with due process. A court can't enforce an alleged, statutory violation that is so vague the accuser doesn't know what they're being accused of.
Sexual harassment. Isn't that enough?
Now, phrases like sexual harassment and discrimination are conclusions. Not only do they have to be proven, but the conduct, comprising those violations must be described and be reasonably susceptible to fitting within what sexual harassment or discrimination is. All right, so I don't know if we've offended someone or ruined their breakfast yet. If you have, that's the breaks because you're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show, and there's nothing like this on any other commercial radio station, and I hope you're listening on the Karl Gerber with the K channel on the internet, where only 20% of the listeners are from the U.S. because the audience is so big on this show. Call me about a real California employment case, 877-525-0700, sexual harassment, 877-525-0700 if you want a lawyer who can script your lawsuit better than anyone else, 877-525-0700 if you're working for a ghost kitchen and something went wrong. We'll be back in just a minute to hear more of Sunny's story on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show.
Okay. I'll tell you. Puchito Anderson gives me tofu in the shape of penises.
I was going to say that if my food was infused with that stuff you were talking about, I want to do more than power swab. But okay, based upon what you said, are those multiple different looking penises, or are different tofus all just in the general shape of the penis?
Well, they don't always look the same. That's not how tofu is.
Well, that could be sexual harassment.
Every time my kitchen loans or sells the vegan kitchen beer, Puchito Anderson, gives me a tofu penis as thanks. I feel like, no thanks.
Did you tell him that you found this offensive?
I don't know. A lot of the kitchens make food in the shape of body parts. Not just penises, but heads, noses, women's parts.
Are these cookies? I mean, why would food be made in the shape of somebody's head?
Oh, a lot of private events want genital-shaped food. A lot of the trendy restaurants around town, too.
Well, I guess I don't get around enough.
Oh, it's pretty common, especially around the holidays and now with Valentine's Day coming up.
Oh, so, Sunny, were you offended by the genital-shaped tofu?
Should I have been?
Well, a reasonable woman might be, but a reasonable woman about your age working in a kitchen, maybe not if it's so common to make genital-shaped foods in commercial kitchens these days.
Well, I don't have an objection to making penis-shaped food, but I don't think I should get it as gifts from some guy I don't know just because my employer is supplying the vegans with beer.
Well, still, the harasser has to know the conduct is unwelcome. I think if you were anyone other than somebody in the food industry where they make all those genital-shaped foods, you would be offended.
Well, I called up the owner of my company real late at night. She answered. She won't answer if you call her when the sun is up. Eidolon said it's probably scared. It probably scared me when Puchito would give me tofu-shaped genitals.
Well, did you say you didn't like it?
I sure did.
Well, there's been some inconsistent testimony whether you were truly offended over receiving genital-shaped tofu.
Well, there's worse things that could have happened.
Well, if that's your belief, maybe that goes to your damages and minimizes them.
Well, do you think it's worth a couple million?
No.
The other lawyer who charges 50% over in downtown Los Angeles, he said he gets people millions in trials.
Well, not for tofu-shaped genitals when it seems you're ambivalent about how offensive this conduct is.
Eidolon took it pretty serious. She said she'd scare Puchito Anderson for me.
Well, did that shake him up and make him quit?
I heard Puchito came running out of the kitchen one night and nobody ever saw him again.
Well, the sexual harassment stopped after Eidolon shook him up. I mean, she shook up the harasser over his conduct.
To be honest with you, nobody ever saw Puchito Anderson again. He completely vanished.
I'm just not sure on this lawsuit. The wrongful termination wasn't there, and the sexual harassment by a non-supervisor stopped after your employer, Eidolon, scared him.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
What do you want to talk to me about?
Eidolon!
Well, did Eidolon do anything to you? It sounds like she tried to solve your sexual harassment problem. She even got rid of the harasser.
Look, here's the problem. Nobody's ever seen her. The unemployment office can't find my employer. They say they don't exist.
Yeah, this might be more of a matter for the Department of Labor Standards Enforcement Office.
I'm not sure.
Well, if the conduct stopped after you complained, the person who harassed you didn't have any authority over you, I don't see a case I can help you with, Sunny.
Oh, maybe I should call Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, that's not your old pretend boyfriend, is it?
Oh, definitely not. He's straight.
Why would you call Dan Aykroyd?
I heard he has some experience with ghosts.
Ghost kitchens?
I think he's Canadian.
What does that have to do with anything?
Oh, probably it doesn't.
Look, I don't want to knock the seriousness as a fly-by-night employer, in a co-working kitchen.
Somebody's got to do something about this. The whole thing is paranormal.
Well, most matters I cover on this show are because Remus Helms refers all guests.
Actually, somebody I knew heard about my problems with my employer. Well, the Yanni lady from episode 91, she knows Remus Helms, and through her, he referred me to your office.
Well, Sunny, so far you haven't entirely measured up to the Remus Helms standard of referral.
Well, I'm so sorry. I don't meet your standards.
Well, usually his guests are involved in some sexually charged issue. I mean, not like the sexual harassment you've described, which comes up in a lot of sexual harassment lawsuits. I had a case where sushi was made like that to offend my client.
Mr. Gerber, I think you're missing the point. I am pretty sure I worked for a ghost.
Well, we've talked about ghost employees who don't start the job because they get a better offer, ghost employees on paper who don't exist because the employer is taking their wages.
Do you know what Eidolon means?
Well, of course. Sort of like a spirit.
Don't you find it a little coincidental that I never met my employer? Nobody can find the ghost kitchen at night. Nobody leaves when the sub is up. Her name is a name for a ghost. She said she'd scare Puchito Anderson, and then he just vanished.
Well, Puchito Anderson was a ghost, too. I mean, seriously.
No, I am pretty sure he was real. I saw him bleed all over some order the vegan kitchen was sending out to Santa Monica.
Yeah, sorry, but I don't believe in ghosts.
I didn't either until I worked at that ghost kitchen.
Well, then let's just assume you work for a fraudulent employer who didn't want to show her identity.
One of the reasons I came to you was I heard you might have an infrared camera because you've been doing a lot of insulation work.
Well, I got an infrared camera so I can see if the insulation has gaps in it once it's installed. I'm pretty serious about properly conserving energy.
I heard you were trying to make a sound studio.
Oh, well, that too.
I thought maybe I could use your infrared camera to see if there's a ghost.
But you can't find your employer.
Maybe if we went at night.
We've never discussed how your employment ended.
Oh, I just got tired of going in there. I stopped showing up for work.
Let's just go in there right now and get this over with. I don't believe it will be hard to find the place on a sunny Saturday morning where it's very foggy here. I mean, there won't even be any traffic.
Okay. I'll order up one of those ride-hailing services. Add a little more traffic to LA. Okay, here we go. Maybe we'll get lucky. Oh, and the driver will be normal. How about that? See? Look, there is nothing here.
We're looking at an empty lot.
There's no way it could have disappeared in only a week.
Are you sure this is where you worked?
I want to say yes.
I know you want to say yes, but is it yes? Is that an accurate answer?
I don't know.
Maybe when you're more sure about where you work, we can contact the Department of Labor Standards Enforcement and let them know where your employer is.
I tell you, if we come back at night...
I'm not sure I can devote any more time to this.
Come on. Don't you want to do justice? Don't you want justice to be done here?
This is one of those times when I have to do what is morally right, even if it will cost me in terms of the lack of time with my family, a lack of pay, maybe even credit card debt, interest on a business line of credit. We've been sitting here for 7 hours. I might have to use the bathroom soon.
Oh, come on. It isn't sunny anymore.
You're still sunny.
But it's getting dark. Look.
That's weird. It looks like we can sort of see a big brick building. There's a lot of fog.
That's from Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It always gets foggy here when Valentino goes for a walk.
Oh, B, there's a building here now.
I told you, it is a ghost kitchen.
Oh, my God. I can't take any more of these guests. Yeah, I got to get back to the office. And so if you want to call me about a real employment case, I don't want to sue a ghost. 877-525-0700. 877-525-0700. If you were wrongfully terminated from your job, don't have inconsistent testimony that you quit and you were fired like we just heard from Sunny. That's ridiculous, and it's going to get you out of court. 877-525-0700 if you have a class action to bring against your employer for unpaid wages, or, maybe a work injury. Maybe you were forced to eat food some guy bled all over in a vegan kitchen. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it happens all the time. So we will be back next week. Tune into the Karl Gerber with the K channel for the time. It's either 7 p.m. on Saturday or 10 a.m. on Saturday, depending on the USC game. Have a wonderful week of workplace abuse, and if you do, I think you know where to call. This has been the Karl Gerber Workplace Lawyer Show on Talk Radio 790 KABC.
This show was furnished by Karl Gerber and Employment Lawyers Group.